even that kind of...
All right, planning board. We are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ed Krug, Chair of the Board, and I'm calling the East Hampton Town Planning Board January 28th, 2026 meeting to order. This is a regular meeting and a work session, and we have two public hearings. We have 5 items for work session, a couple of items to clean up in the regular meeting. So we're going to dive right into it. And the first public hearing is the Seacrest Pool and Shed Site Plan. Chris, you're already there at the desk for the planning department. And Lou, this is you. Do you want to read the announcement?
Sure.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board on January 28, 2026 at 6:30 p.m.
You flip it over.
Seacrest.
Just read the description there, yeah.
The application is for a phase site plan. Phase 1 proposes to replace an existing swimming pool and its surrounding structures and proposes new structures, including a storage shed. Phase 2 proposes a town-story clubhouse building, a new sanitary system, and accessory structures.
Perfect. Good, thanks, Lou. So Chris, give us the lowdown on what this is about, and we'll start the hearing.
Sure, quick summary. There we go. This is a property, it's on the eastern edge of Amagansett along Montauk Highway. And as Lou mentioned, it's a phase site plan where phase 1 involves replacing the swimming pool, surrounding structures, some new accessory structures, and then phase 2, shown in red, is the new low nitrogen sanitary system, as well as the 2-story clubhouse building that's about 3,647 square feet. That required natural resources special permit. They're going through that process now, and there's a type 2 action pursuant to secret.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So the way that this works, yes. Oh, yeah, I forgot to ask the question. Thank you, Brittany, for reminding me. The way that this works is we allow members of the public to speak for 3 minutes. We start with people in the room. We move to people who are calling in. Sure. Our time to 3 minutes, so we'll first ask if anyone is present here who wants to speak to this particular application. Anyone in the room? Okay, Matt, is anyone on the phone lines who wants to be heard?
Let's just do a double check of the phone lines. Stand by 1 second, please. And this is Matt Chapman calling from LTV, making sure all the phone lines are good. And they are, and you have 0 callers. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Matt. All right, given that, make a motion to end the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Second by Bruce, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, John Person. Aye, okay, great. So we'll move on to our second public hearing, which is Surf Club 4 phased site plan. Again, that's Chris and Bruce. If you read the public hearing notice.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board on January 28th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. for the application of Surf Club 4 phase site plan. Size and location is 271,099 square feet or 6.22 acres located at 20 Surfside Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-49-6-21. The application is for a phase site plan to expand and partially renovate 4 motel units, units 35, 73, 81, and 85. For units 35, 73 and 85, the project proposes enclosing existing patios with matching footprints. off the bedroom to build a new bathroom and extend the existing bedrooms. No changes are proposed to the second story of the units mentioned, given the project areas within the building portion with 1 story. New skylights are proposed above the project area of the units mentioned. Unit 81 proposes enclosing most of the entry patio, 40 square feet, to expand the existing kitchen and entry corridor.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. Chris, do you want to give us any other information about this application?
I think Bruce covered it there. Everything's within existing footprints. This work did require a variance from the zoning board, and it's since obtained that on December 3rd, 2025. So it's good to go.
Great, okay. Does anyone in the room wish to be heard on this application?
And for the record, it was properly.
And for the record, it's been noticed.
0 for 2.
Yeah, 0 for 2. Claritin is what it is. All right, is there anyone on the phone lines, Matt, who wants to be heard?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Okay, so those were 2 very quick public hearings. I make a motion to end this public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, done. Moving on to our work session. The first item up is the McGarva Barn site plan modification. Aaron, that's you for the planning department, and Jen, that's you for us.
me.
Okay.
And the applicant.
And the applicant is here, I presume. I see Tom back there. Yep, hi. So please, Aaron.
This is the McGarvin Barn site plan modification. It was last reviewed on December 18, 2024. Some background information. The application was made seeking a modification to the site plan approval. In 2007. The proposed modification will remove the fire wall, add a curb cut, remove the performance bond, allow for a longer turnout time, decline, remove 3 parking spots potentially, and allow fence line irrigation. The original application approved a barn with 6 stalls, a rooming room, a tack room, a washroom, and a 2nd-story hayloft. Additionally, 4 padlocks, a jumping ring, and 7 parking spaces were approved. The subject property is approximately 5.1 acres in size and is zoned A3 residence. The lot is currently improved with a 2-story single-family residence with attached garage, covered porch, roof deck, 4 padlocks, swimming pool, fencing, hot tub, pool house, 2 frame and a flat patio, and a playground patio. It is located within the South Fork groundwater protection area and the Suffolk County Pine Barrens area. On December 18, 2024, the previous application or the previous application, there was some comment at the board meeting, and as such, the comments as follows. The first planning board comment was the board agreed to remove the condition of approval or performance bond. No response was required by the applicant. This was addressed in the previous application, and the board agreed to remove it. As such, no further action needs to be taken. And the second comment was the applicant should submit information pertaining to turnout time by a professional in the field. According to, this was addressed by the applicant, according to sections 4.9 and 4.9B of the original approval, 2007 site plan. The site was required to have a pasture management plan in the form of a declaration of covenants and restrictions that was supposed to be filed with the office of the Suffolk County Clerk. No such file could be found. Currently, section 4.9D1 of the pasture management plan only allows a typical turnout time for 4 hours. The applicant is proposing to remove this restriction. During the previous review, the board requested the input of an on-site professional regarding turnout time and how it might affect animal welfare. In response, the applicant did submit a letter from Nora Kelps, a DBM, a local equine and small animal veterinarian. Dr. Kelps stated, quote, equine should have an unlimited turnout time, end quote, time due to the restrictions causing horses to potentially develop anxiety, manifesting in various physical elements and unpleasant behaviors. The primary concerns for the extended turnout times were the creation of dust and potential noise disturbances. However, there are already noise standards already, the noise standards already outlined in town code. And that this property would be required to be compliant as any other would be. As such, it is unlikely that disturbances from horse farms will be present tonight. Additionally, the site plan was approved with irrigation for these areas, which is proposed to remain, although reconfigured along the fence lines. Therefore, the planning department does not see that the restrictions are necessary, but the board should determine if it agrees. Third comment was the applicant should submit a site plan depicting the new proposed locations of the drainage swale and fencing. This was addressed. The applicant has submitted a site plan, a new plan depicting the proposed locations. Upon review, the town engineer had no objections and no further action is needed. In terms of fire protection, the previous site plan submission, the applicant provided an email exchange between them and the town fire marshal indicating the public water access would be extended within 1,000 feet of the property, no longer requiring a fire well. The town fire marshal did respond and conduct a review on January 15, 2026, and it was found a new fire hydrant was installed within 1,000 feet of the site. As such, fire protection is deemed sufficient and no further action needs to be taken. The application was referred to the town consulting engineer for review. On January 8, 2026, we did receive a report. There was no objection taken to the new curb cut and driveway. The site plan does include the construction of one new accessible parking stall that is proposed to be surface and gravel. The proposed surface for the accessible stall fails to conform to ADA standards. If an accessible parking stall is required, it should meet all applicable standards. In terms of parking, to add on to that too, for the parking calculation on the proposed site plan indicates 5 parking spaces will be provided. However, upon the review, only 4 spaces are shown, including 1 accessible space. This modification also will eliminate 3 grass parking spots. Under town code, a horse farm is required to provide 1 stall of 1 parking space per stall, as well as 1 space per employee. The previously approved site plan permitted the barn to have 6 stalls. As such, in the parking calculation, it now states the barn has 4 stalls. Based on information provided, the site would require to have 5 parking spaces. The applicant should clarify the stall count and amend the site plan, amend the site parking to meet requirements outlined in town code. As previously stated, the accessible parking spot should be surfaced with something that's not gravel and conforms with the ADA standards. As such, the planning department recommends the applicant amend the site plan to conform with ADA standards. This site currently has 3 accessory structures that were not included in the previous 2007 site plan. The structures are about 190 square foot frame shed, 220 square foot frame shed, and the playground within the existing 774 square feet cleared area marked by 6-inch wood curb. All structures meet related requirements. The town board the planning board should discuss whether they feel these accessory structures are appropriate and should be allowed to remain. All plans submitted for this application, including but not limited to the plans, drawing plans, they should all be consistent with the titles and applications, which was filed unless an official request is made to modify them. In conclusion, in the following submission, the applicant should clarify how many parking spaces will be provided, meet ADA parking requirements, and ensure the provided parking meet town code requirements.
Great, thank you, Aaron. Does the applicant wish to be heard?
Well, just mentioned that they did submit a new site plan, but we haven't had time to review it as it was given a couple days ago. It will be reviewed in the next submission.
Okay, great. Tom, just name and address, please, for the record.
Thomas Crouch, Whalen Filer, PLC, 532 Montauk Highway, Amagansett, Suite 203. Here for the applicants, Lori and David Garva. Yeah, so we're not trying to get a reduction in the parking spaces. I think that was just a mistake and oversight in submission. So we submitted a new a revised plan, due to the storm and everyone's schedule. We didn't get it in time for planning department to review, but the revised plan has 7 spaces and a handicap space, just as the original submission did. So that was really the only change. Happy to answer any questions on the board.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Tom, for the applicants?
I have a question. Where is the curb cut? Is it off the driveway?
Yeah, so it's
Okay, yeah, all right, I'm just,
right back here.
Oh, it's at the back of the property.
oh.
And that goes to Hunting Road? Is that what's over there? Yeah, right. Okay. Where the fire hydrant is.
Right.
All right, I was not aware of that. Okay.
Okay, great. Well, then if no other questions from the board, we'll go to Jen to lead our discussion.
Thanks, Thomas, thanks, Aaron. I think that all of the previous things that we discussed have been addressed. I don't see any issue with anything. I think, all of the things that Aaron mentioned and all the things Thomas mentioned, I think it's kind of an easy yes for me.
Good. This seems like a pretty
Yeah.
clean submission. If anyone else, though, has any other comments, please make them now.
I did want to bring up I'm sorry, I forgot this until just a second ago. I did want to bring up the question of a new public hearing because it is a revised site plan. Is that something we need to do or?
Well, there'll be another submission to
Okay.
clean everything up, including us looking at the new site plan that you've
Right.
prepared with the additional parking. So we can maybe talk about it.
The turnout time for the horse.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to go through the questions, which includes that. These are the questions the planning department has given us. The first is, does the board agree to remove the turnout time limit of 4 hours?
Yes.
Everyone's in agreement? John?
Yep.
Okay. Should the applicant amend the accessible parking space to be compliant with the Americans Disabilities Act? Yes, and I think.
And I think that's in the.
Yeah,
Is that in the new?
you've done that in the revision. That's fine. Yeah. Should the applicant clarify how many parking spaces will be provided? You said you
Yes.
would. So, but yes, I think we're all
Yes.
answering yes on
Yeah.
that. Should the applicant amend their site plan to meet town parking requirements? Again,
Yes.
you've done that. Does the board agree the accessory structures built since the previously approved site plan should be allowed to remain?
If they're all
I think
within.
they're all
Yeah,
They're all compliant, they're all
so, yeah.
conforming.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yep.
And those are the questions. So I think it's great that there is a horse farm in East Hampton. So I'm all enthusiastic about it. So we're good. So we'll meet again, obviously, with revised documents.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Thomas. Good to see you guys.
All right, so our next application is the Phoenix House Security Gate Site Plan. And Will's at the desk. All right, that's great for the planning department. And that is Reed. So take it, and the applicant is here. Phoenix House, you guys. Okay, great. Will.
Okay, so this is an application seeking to construct a new security gate at the Phoenix House located on Industrial Road in Waynescott. The project proposes adding a new security gate, widening the existing driveway, adding traffic islands, and relocating 2 light posts. The site is currently improved with a 2-story building with porch, deck, 48 parking spaces, basketball court, volleyball court, and stone barbecue. The property is within the Suffolk County Pine Barrens and South Fork Special Groundwater Protection Area, both of which emphasize the importance of clean water. The site is zoned CI, commercial industrial, considered improved and partially cleared, and is 3.7 acres in size. Properties to the north, west, and east are vacant and owned by the town of East Hampton, and the property to the south is owned by the Long Island Railroad. The Phoenix House is considered a semi-public facility allowed by special permit in the CI zoning system. The project is a type 2 action pursuant to SECRA and Chapter 128 code, and no further SECRA action is required. The proposed work will widen the entry drive from 25 feet to 32 feet and limit unpermitted access, which will provide greater security for its occupants. New landscaping is proposed on the traffic islands, and the applicant should consider using native species. The proposed gate may be somewhat visible from Industrial Road, and the board should discuss if the applicant should provide additional landscaping to shield it. However, the board should also note Industrial Road has limited traffic flow as it is a dead-end road, and much of the traffic is industrial in nature. The lot is leased from the town by the Phoenix House, and the lease agreement was examined to ensure the proposed site work is permissible. No limitations within the lease documents appear to prevent the planning board's approval of the improvements, should it choose to grant it. The fire marshal reviewed the plans and submitted comments dated December 17th, 2025, which found no fire prevention issues. The town consulting engineer reviewed the plans and submitted comments on January 15th, 2026, which found no objections to the proposed design, but noted the increase in stormwater runoff from the driveway widening should be directed and contained to an existing drainage feature. Based on planning department review of the project, we recommend it qualifies as a minor site plan, and the board should discuss if it agrees. If the board finds no visual detriment or interference with future planning of the site, it may choose to deem the project a minor site plan and waive the public hearing requirement. Although some elements were missing from the applicant's submission, the planning department recommends these are not necessary or relevant to the review of the project, and the board should discuss if it agrees. These items include property line setbacks to each new structure, finished floor elevation of each building structure in use, location of all easements on the site, including utility lines, hydrants, cisterns, and firewalls, and existing sewage disposal systems. In conclusion, the board should consider the impact the proposed driveway gate may have on the appearance of the site, whether it wishes to require additional landscaping, if it wishes to deem the project a minor site plan, and if waiving the previously mentioned items is appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Will. Does the applicant wish to be heard? Just provide your name and address, please, for the record.
Jack Naylor, Lockwood, Kessler, and Bartlett, 3 Ariel Way, Syosset, New York, for the next week. Then we're moving. The one comment that I would add is that we are not widening the entire driveway. The thought was to widen it only as we approach the traffic gate so that the part that would be immediately visible from the road would remain as is. I guess the most relevant comment is with regard to the landscaping. In our visit to the town early this week, we obtained a list of preferred plantings. We proposed changing them to using the common names Bayberry. If you'd like to see pictures of it, I have extra copies here.
We're good with Bayberry.
What?
We know Bayberry.
Okay, and the other
But
one was
thank you.
blue flag. Do you want to get a little color at the entrance, but a little bit of cheer for the people coming in? If there's additional landscaping, having become familiar with the road, it is a heavy industrial. I will say it's the most attractive property on the road. And it's also undergoing an exterior renovation, which is under review by the town to replace doors, windows, and siding, much of which got damaged by Sandy. The owners are amenable to providing additional landscaping to, would be advised that take into account that they're supported by donations and public funding. It took, quite a few years to get the money together to get this thing done. But still, the relationship between the town and Phoenix House is a long one, provides a very needed service. And they look forward to, as you mentioned, extended lease and continuing to be partner with the town for the forthcoming decades.
Great.
If with regard to additional landscaping, whoever wants to make any suggestions, we're welcome. As we said, to avoid coming back for the architectural review board on the other project, instead of coming back for another hearing, we basically said, whatever color you want. That was decided in a 2-second conversation. And I went into the record that after extended deliberation, that offer was made. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions. The Director of Facilities is here. If you have any questions for him. Otherwise, I'll let you move on to your next item.
Thanks for your comments. We appreciate that, sir. And we will have our conversation, which Reed is going to lead. So we'll ask other questions of you as they come, if they come up.
Thank you, Ed. And thank you, Will, for the overview. Just to remind everyone, the Phoenix House, I think we would all agree, is an important and much-needed facility in our community. Just to remind people about the mission of the Phoenix House, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a semi-public facility that provides treatment to men with substance use disorders. My take on this is I think the application is reasonable and appropriate. I actually visited the property this past Sunday, the snowstorm. I went in the morning. And what's unique about it, it's this where it's located, it's so quiet back there. And as was noted by Will in the memo, it borders East Hampton town land in all directions except for the railroad on the backside. And what wasn't mentioned is across the street from that is, from the Phoenix House, is a Pods warehouse. So for me, I'm somewhat indifferent towards additional landscaping. I understand their budget constraints and that sort of thing. I don't think anyone on this board is going to push back if you want to make more landscaping and make it nicer. I think that'd be great. But again, there's very limited traffic there. That's at the end of a dead end street anyway. So very, very few drivers come down that way. So I'd recommend the board considering this as a minor site plan and waive many of the standard requirements that we typically would. And I'd also be in favor of waiving the public hearing.
Okay, great, thanks. Does anyone else on the board have any other comments that they want to share about the application? Okay.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think the thing is back far enough where we don't need
It's all
to.
wooded around
It
it.
is the nicest property on the street, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in an industrial area, as Reed pointed out, this is an organization with a really great mission. And I think we're all pretty good with what you're proposing. So let's answer the questions that we've been given to answer, which are, should the applicant provide additional landscaping for areas adjacent to the proposed gate? And I think we're all agreeing there's no need for that. John Thorson?
Agreed.
Okay. Does the board agree this project may be considered a minor site plan? And if so, does the board wish to waive the public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement on that. Does the board agree with the planning department's suggestion of waiving the above listed normal items required in the site plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Provided the board agrees to waive the site plan elements, waive the public hearing, and does not require any further revisions to the plans, will the application be complete once comments from the town engineer have been received and addressed?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's Eric Shantz for the planning department. I should clarify too, as Will said, when we had prepared the memo, we didn't have town engineer comments yet, but we have since received them and the engineer had no issues with it. So I think given that, the board could, if the board agrees, could say not only that it's complete, but also that it's ready for approval.
Oh,
Right, that's
okay,
great.
good.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, great. You have those comments. Are we complete and ready for approval?
Yes.
Yes, all around?
Yes. Approved.
All right, good, complete and ready for approval. All right, thank you very much. All right, our next application is American Tower at 103 Flaggy Hill Road, Tier 3, personal wireless service facility modification. Chris for the planning department and Ava for the board. Chris, go ahead.
The applicant is here. I
Oh,
don't
is
think-
the applicant here? I'm sorry.
I don't think so.
The applicant for American Tower? Eric, I think we can move ahead with this anyway, right?
Yeah, you can. The applicant doesn't need to be present.
Okay. All right, this is pretty simple.
Yeah.
All right, tell us about it, Chris. Go ahead.
As mentioned, this is a simple site plan modification at 103 Flaggy Hill Road in Springs, which fronts 3 Mile Harbor Road. Just showing the parcel there, it's a little over 172 acres and it's home to Camp Blue Bay, zoned A5 residents. And the application is to allow an existing, it's called an H-frame, to remain within the equipment compound for the monopole. This construction drawing shows with the red arrow where this frame is in the equipment compound. I'm just gonna show a picture of the frame itself so you get an idea of exactly what it is. It's this equipment there, It needs to remain, according to the applicant, due to some electrical phasing differences between Verizon service and a newly installed metering center. Due to the minor scope of work, the planning department recommends that this be treated as a minor site plan. The board should just review the required items for waiving the public hearing in our memo, and if they agree, they can move forward to the public hearing requirement, and the fire marshal also signed off on this proposal, so provided the board agrees, the application is complete and ready for approval.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. Ava, do you have any objections to H-frames?
No, I do not, and I actually did my due diligence and did look up what it was. This is an existing monopole. It is required for electrical phasing, so I believe if it is removed, then we would have a non-functional monopole, which would be a bad thing.
Don't want that.
So I am in favor of agreeing that this is a minor site improvement and waiving the requirements for a public hearing. They did update also the map, the on-built drawings in November 2025, including the H-frame, because the prior drawings did say it was going to be removed, so.
Oh, okay. So that's been updated.
Yes,
Great.
that has been
Okay.
updated.
Good. Does anyone else on the board have any comments? Okay, well, for H-frames.
H-frame.
Does the planning board agree to waive the requirement for a public hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
All around, okay. Does the planning board agree the application is complete and ready for approval?
Yes.
All right, done. Great. This is great. This is excellent. All right, so our next application is for a preliminary site plan permit evaluation, Judge Ben LLC, for a property at 348 Montauk Highway in Waynescott. And again, just reminded around the board, this is a preliminary site plan. We're just giving high-level comments essentially on the proposed use. So this is Chris again, and Luke, this is you. And I know the applicant is here, right? Correct? Yes. It's good to see you, Mr. Cooper. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, as mentioned, this is preliminary site plan application. It's a one-time review for us to give guidance to the applicant before making a formal submission. This is the subject property, 348 Montauk Highway, in downtown Waynescott. The subject property is 0.63 acres. It's zoned commercial business. And the property is within groundwater management zone 5 and not within any town overlay districts or other areas of special environmental concern. The property is non-conforming total lot coverage of 86.4%, where 80% is permitted in ECB zoning district. The application is made to partition an existing 9,538 square foot one-story building into 4 storage units that would be for service commercial or other permitted or special permitted uses. A commercial unit is also proposed to the south where a retail store was previously approved. The existing building was previously approved in 1981 as a retail store with warehouse storage to the rear, and the Zoning Board of Appeals determination dated July 16, 1981 permitted 20 parking spaces where 35 spaces were required. The footprint of the building is proposed to remain the same. 2 new vehicle delivery doors are proposed on the northern facade along Bathgate Road, and 1 existing delivery door is proposed to be converted into entry doors. The proposal includes 4 new restrooms for the storage units and a common area indicated with the in regards to SECRA, upon formal submission, the project would likely be considered an unlisted action. Pursuant to SECRA and Chapter 128 of the Town Code, applicant should prepare environmental assessment form using the DEC mapper with the formal submission. So going over the proposed use, the applicant proposes 4 storage units. I'm just going to show a schematic floor plan showing, this shows the 4 storage units, mechanical spaces where the restrooms are, and then the commercial unit to the south. The 4 storage units are to accommodate service commercial or other permitted, special permitted uses. The maximum number of uses permitted on a commercial district lot is 2. unless a special permit is obtained for a multiple business or multiple industrial complex. Each service commercial unit would be considered a separate use, and service commercial is not considered a business or industrial use, so it could not be part of either of those complexes. Since the subject property is zoned CB, the planning board cannot approve more than one service commercial use unless a variance is obtained from the ZBA. Only in the commercial industrial zone may the planning board approve up to 2 service commercial units per 20,000 square feet of lot area. The submitted parking calculations detail that the area for the proposed storage units would be considered a warehouse use, which is not consistent with the rest of the submission. The formal submission should clarify the proposed uses, and warehouses are also prohibited in the CB zoning district and would therefore require use variance from the zoning board. The only storage units typically permitted in CB zone is a storage garage by special permit, which our town code definition is included in the report for. However, special permits are prohibited for this use on Montauk Highway, so it would require a variance in this case. It appears that regardless of which use the applicant decides to propose for the 4 storage units, that a variance would be required. The applicant should consider these issues when deciding the proposed uses, and the planning department typically discourages proposals that would require variances, so they should work to make the proposal conform with the town code. Should they decide to propose more than 2 business uses, that would be a multiple business complex, and they would need to comply with the special permit standards for that use. Next is just going over the parking. Just pull the site plan back up. So the previous zoning board determination from 1981, which allowed only 20 parking spaces where 35 were required, specified that the variance shall become null and void in the event the premise shall be used for any purpose other than the retail of plumbing fixtures and supplies. Is very specific. Therefore, since the applicant proposes new uses, the variances would likely be deemed void. The proposed number of parking spaces, 20, will likely require a variance from the zoning board prior to planning board approval, pending the confirmation of uses and revisions to the submitted calculations. The calculations appear to contain errors. They excluded the mechanical space from the gross floor area. The mechanical space appears to be associated with the mentioned restrooms, so therefore it should just be added to whatever use is decided for the storage units. The calculations go over the warehouse use issue. Lastly, the front of the building was detailed as a showroom in the parking calculations with a parking requirement of 1 space per 180 square feet of gross floor area. This should be revised to a use consistent with the town code. Based on the architectural plans, it appears it would be either an office or retail use, which would have that same requirement. Next is going over the site navigation. This is a sketch from the planning department. The yellow shows the approximate location of the vehicle delivery doors, and orange just shows areas of potential spatial conflict. So just to note, there are some pre-existing non-conforming drive aisle widths to the south, 17.5 feet being the most narrow, but the fire marshal does not see an issue with this for firefighting purposes, so those are permitted to remain. More our concern is, as you can see on the right, this is a western facade, and if the vehicle is delivering to this door, it would have some conflict with the parking space proposed in that area. So our consulting engineer prepared this sketch since the report was published, and it's likely that those 2 spaces could be moved over to avoid that conflict. And just to go back to the sketch, these door on the southern facade, when that door is being used for delivery purposes, it would block access to the adjacent parking spaces. So that is also an issue. So the applicant should consider revising the submission to improve the conflict, and the formal submission should also indicate the delivery doors on the site plan to just clearly show their relationship. to the surrounding parking spaces. Also not shown on the plan here, but they are proposing 2 delivery doors on the northern facade. And there's only about 5.5 feet between the edge of the building and the northern property line. So therefore, when they're using those delivery doors, it's likely that they'll need to protrude, they will need to protrude into the town right of way. The planning department understands this area has been used for perpendicular parking, but there's no evidence to demonstrate that there's approval for them to use the right of way. So upon making formal submission, the applicant should just consult the highway department. Ultimately, they would need to approve the property using a portion of Bathgate Road for their operation. Next is the sanitary system. Sanitary details are not required for the site plan, but they did provide some details which we reviewed. The calculations detail the property as a grandfathered population density equivalent of 381.5 gallons per day, where 189.6 gallons per day would typically be the maximum. The site's constrained since it's in groundwater zone 5. And the county health department regulates the density equivalent, and their approval will be required upon formal submission. The calculations apply the general industrial use to the entire building with a flow rate of 0.04 gallons per day per square foot. This may not be applicable to the entire building or any of the proposed uses. However, this can't be confirmed until the proposed uses are. Ultimately, the county will determine whether the uses align with their review standards, and the applicant should apply to them early in the process and submit proof of a grandfathered flow rate to the planning board. So also regards to the sanitary system, it appears the existing conventional septic was constructed in the 1970s. It's likely more than 50 years old at this time, and given the property is also within groundwater management zone 5, the planning department recommends that the formal submission propose a low nitrogen IA sanitary system. The submitted lighting details were all compliant with the town code and met the submission requirements. In regard to signage, there's just a small error. The submitted survey shows 3 signs in the front yard, when in fact there's only 1, so there should just be an updated survey upon formal submission. And then as far as waste disposal goes, the applicant should explain how solid waste will be managed. The plan should be revised to show a dumpster enclosure if one is intended. When doing so, they should mitigate any negative impacts to internal navigation and also provide elevation drawings for the enclosure. For landscaping, there was no landscaping plan provided. Site's fully cleared with the exception of 3 mature trees along the front yard, and the department recommends that a landscaping plan be provided with native vegetation in areas that are currently vegetated with grass. So that should come in the formal submission. Regarding the town consulting engineer, he has no objections to the proposal, but just offered a few notes for us to consider. And it mentions that the existing drainage was designed for a 1/2 to 1 inch rainfall event where current standards are 2 inches. Ultimately, we'll review that upon formal submission to see if it needs additional capacity, but at the very least, they should clean and service the existing system to just enhance its lifespan and its current productivity. And the planning department recommends that a detailed grading and drainage plan be submitted on formal submission. During the fire marshal signed off for firefighting purposes, as I mentioned. However, some small revisions are needed for the proposed restrooms to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. As far as submission items that should be provided, in addition to the issues I've mentioned, the floor area for all proposed uses should be indicated consistently, and detailed sanitary plans should be provided. Upon formal submission, additional approvals from the Architectural Review Board. Zoning Board of Appeals is to be determined whether variances for the number of uses, a use variance, and or whether an area variance for the minimum number of parking spaces will be required. The fire marshal will need to sign off for ADA compliance and the county health department for the sanitary plan. In conclusion, just a reminder, it's a one-time review to give guidance to the applicants. Upon formal submission, clarify the proposed uses and revise the proposal to conform with the town code. Parking calculations should be amended accordingly. The parking spaces and vehicle delivery doors should be reconfigured to avoid spatial conflict. We should have proof of a grandfathered population density equivalent and consider proposing an IA sanitary system. Applicant should explain how solid waste will be managed and should provide a grading and drainage plan, landscaping plan, and address the missing submission items. And the planning board should discuss these issues and determine whether they agree. I'm here to help if you have any questions.
Thank you, Chris, for a very thorough review. I appreciate that. Before we hear from the applicant, does anyone have any questions for Chris? There are a lot of moving parts here on this application. No, okay. I do have one, Chris. Is it possible to have a I know self-storage is not actually officially a town use, but would that use change anything about the dynamic here in terms of numbers of uses on the site?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, Eric might know, but believe it would be a public non-nuisance industry, which is only allowed in the industrial zone, but that's something we need to confirm.
Okay.
Take a closer look at.
Okay, all right. Mr. Huber.
Good evening, Chair, board members, council, and staff. John Huber.
Go ahead.
John Huber, Balsam Schmidt and Huber, 231 Pantago Road, East Hampton. I also have an office in Port Jefferson Village for convenience. I live in Setauket. I'm pleased to appear before you tonight. Thank you for your time. And I want to compliment Chris on an excellent review. He concisely covered a vast amount of material. As you can see, the harder he worked now, it makes it easier for me to make my presentation because I can respond exactly to the very precise points that he raised. When Mr. Modis, who's present, approached me about the project and described for me his vision for the property, I said, gee, this seems to me like an ideal candidate for a preliminary site plan submission because it's a little bit of a moving target, and depending on the board's valuable feedback, it will help us now tailor this about how we proceed. So my intention in submitting the preliminary site plan application was to initiate the dialogue about the project, flesh out the ideas so we could proceed in a formal fashion more efficiently. As you can see, there's a lot of moving parts with some interesting code compliance nuances. And many of the projects I do are unique. And so they're not cookie cutter, and I need to develop sort of a fresh insight on every project. Every property is different. So the existing building at the property was previously approved with related certificates of occupancy for office, retail, and warehouse space. The intention for this project has been that Richard Modis, member of JoJo Ben LLC, the entity that owns the subject parcel, is retiring from the plumbing and heating supply business after more than 50 years. And he desires to use the existing building without changing the footprint in a way that will be beneficial for other small business owners and entrepreneurs in the community. Insofar as the building has historically been used for plumbing and heating supply, the primary intention was to partition the rear of approximately 7,000 square feet that had been used for warehousing into 4 separate units, not storage as indicated on the plans. That was basically, I don't want to say in our haste to make the submission to get on the board's agenda, I probably could have chosen more artfully the term I use there. Even unit would have been better than storage, but that was not the intention. The purpose of these units would be for local contractors or tradesmen to use them as workshops in a matter literally identical to the service commercial definition set forth at Code Section 255-120 290. So there's the curly brackets that each of those definitions receives. 290 is the numerical location for service commercial. The use table, attachment 3 to Town Code Chapter 255, expressly identifies service commercial as a special permit use in central business zoning district in which the property is situated. So in light of the comments and code analysis provided by Christopher, applicants' options in compliance with Code Section 255-245, paragraphs A and C, and I have extra copies. This is basically the code provision that's moderating our dialogue tonight, and it says how many uses in each zoning district are permitted. And so after analyzing that and reviewing Chris's insightful comments, it was incumbent upon me to really simplify our options for this proposal to make it easier for you as a board to get your heads around the concept. So these are what I think the options are. Applicant could submit a special use permit application to have one service commercial use and an unlimited number of as-of-right offices, or one service commercial use and one other as-of-right or special permit use listed under the category A business uses set forth in the commercial use table. That's option one. Or, and this is when I submitted the application as preliminary, I styled it the way I did, either service commercial or other permitted or special permit uses. Here's option two. Applicant could submit a special use permit application for a multiple business complex, and that's defined at Code Section 255-1-20-233 as a grouping of 3 or more permitted or special permit category A business uses on a single lot. So just to be clear, I want the board to have peace of mind. I'm not trying to cram 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag here. Just to be clear, if we pursue the multiple business complex use, we will not include the service commercial use insofar as that is not considered a business use under the code, nor will we propose any additional warehouse space or garage storage in compliance with your code that doesn't allow that garage storage on Montauk Highway. Also, at this point, I don't anticipate that we would seek to rezone the property to commercial industrial to accommodate additional warehouse space. Of course, we understand that both those options are subject to all other applicable dimensional, special permit, and site planning requirements. Our desire is to propose the project under either option in a manner that will eliminate or minimize the need for variances from the ZBA. It's just good planning. Based on Chris's preliminary evaluation, the proposal needs to be refined in a number of ways, including the following. SECRA. So as Chris requests, we'll prepare and submit the short environmental assessment form with the forthcoming formal submission. A full parking assessment. Based on existing conditions at the site, adding spaces beyond the existing 20 will be challenging, if not impossible. This is a perennial issue for this property. It goes back to the 80s when the zoning board considered it and gave them basically a 15-space variance. There's no space on either side on adjacent parcels to purchase for additional parking. So what we need to do is optimize on the site the way we configure the spaces that we propose. And we're going to do our very best to come up with an optimal location or configuration. However, I looked at the code and how it deals with parking, and under these circumstances, perhaps the board might consider, in lieu of some or all of the additional ordinary off-street parking that would require, maybe we could do a payment of a parking fee under Code Section 255-1146, paragraph B. That's available for properties in the commercial or in the central business. And whatever the numbers turn out to be, that would obviously be a business decision for the client. If it's a reasonable number, that may be the way to go. If not, then I may need to go to the zoning board for the parking variance. But if it turns out that the payment in lieu of parking is viable for the board, we wouldn't even need the parking variance. I don't think. And I'll defer to council's interpretation on that, certainly. Site navigation. Chris's evaluation discusses various issues, including contemplated alterations to the building's frontage along Bathgate Road and the use of vehicle delivery doors. I can assure the board that we will address those comments in the formal submission, although the fire marshal has already determined that the existing drive aisles could be permitted to remain as they are insofar as they are sufficient for firefighting purposes. One thing I'd like to specifically address now is that the existing building is indeed about 5.2 feet south of Bathgate Road, highlighted up on the plan on the screen. As a result, we don't anticipate using that area on the property for vehicle deliveries because interfering with it just makes no sense, and it is of no benefit to anyone to have perpendicular deliveries blocking traffic on Bathgate. One thought was that little 5.2 foot strip that runs from west to east along the back of the building, it's currently paved. That might be an ideal location if we were to remove the asphalt and put native plantings there. That would perhaps help us offset the lack of other available space on the property to do native plantings. Sanitary system. We also need to confer with our project engineer, David Rhodes of TF Engineering in Sag Harbor, to determine whether or to what extent the existing septic system is sufficient or whether it should be replaced with a low nitrogen. Even though code section 210-3-2 doesn't appear to require low nitrogen system under these circumstances. But if from the client's perspective, it's a business judgment. We're estimating that a new system like that might be in the neighborhood of about $60 to $70 or $75,000, and how that would impact the overall project budget. Exterior lighting is satisfactory as proposed. Signage. At the time the survey was done, originally the property had been for sale. And then the suitable offers were not received, so then the alternative was to propose this project that I'm before you tonight to speak about. The survey includes some of that old for sale signage, so we'll have that cleaned up. And so the board is aware we're proposing a new sign, similar in the configuration to the existing sign that says East Hampton Plumbing and Heating. It's going to say like Mid Hampton's Common, or that was the original subdivision name back when the Stoller Enterprise subdivided this property back in the either the late 60s or the early 70s. We'd like to revisit and go back to that and call it Mid Hampton Square. And that's what the new sign would say. And we obviously have to go to the ARB for that approval. Solid waste disposal. This sort of dovetails with the parking issue, because if we were to put a dumpster and an enclosure, we're eating up valuable space for parking. The initial concept was any occupants of these spaces would be responsible for removing their boxes and solid waste off-site. Whether or not that's practical, we really need to look at that carefully. If we were to put a dumpster with an enclosure on the property, we would have to locate it somewhere in there where it didn't diminish our ability to provide parking space. Probably would use up about one parking space. Landscaping. Based on Chris's comments, we need to provide a native vegetation landscaping plan for the limited areas on the property currently planted with grass. We plan to maintain the 3 existing trees along Montauk Highway. Engineering comments. As indicated in Chris's evaluation, the January 12, 2026 report issued by the town's consulting engineer has no objections. I was delighted to hear that, but they note that we might consider enhancing the site's drainage capacity to accommodate 2-inch rainfall. So there are 3 drainage basins in the courtyard currently. Whether we could replace those with precast rings of a wider diameter is one possibility, to increase their capacity to accommodate the 2-inch rainfall. But that's definitely an issue we're going to consider and submit appropriate materials for. And my desire when I make the formal submission is to get it right the first time and get you everything you want to see. When I do those things, believe it or not, I put myself in the position of a board member, and I said, what would I want to see if I were reviewing this application? And so that's what I'll do here, and we'll give you the information that I think you want to see. Fire prevention, minor clarification. On January 14, 2026, I had some dialogue with Chief Fire Marshal Brown. He initially said that the lavatories that were proposed were not ADA compliant. We revised the design, gave him an updated plan. On January 14th, 2026, he issued an updated memo, and he confirmed that it is now ADA compliant. So that's one thing off the check list. So with that, I'll conclude. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to respond to any questions or comments.
All right, so
Note, I believe the updated fire marshal's comments may have stated that it's still not ADA compliant, but we can confirm that and get back. There may have been a miscommunication.
My sense on that
Yeah.
is when he issued his updated report, he changed the box that was darkened previously saying not ADA compliant. He took that off and he highlighted ADA compliant. He just didn't take his comments off.
Yeah, we'll take a look and
Okay,
confirm.
but
Yeah.
I know you're good for it, so thank you, Chris. I
all
appreciate it.
right. Thanks for your comments very much. Before we turn it over to the board, just to note, this is a preliminary site plan, so we're kind of keeping our comments, on the broad plan, sort of in a conceptual, and let you know what it is that we would need to be able to move forward. I think you've got a lot of conversations still to have with the planning department, some of the things that you proposed about uses and special uses and so on and so forth, are things that we don't yet know whether will wind up being permissible, or accomplishable in any way. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lou for our discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Ed, because I was just going to say that, because the comments that I have are comments that I thought, as you said, what a board member would want to see. And I know you've addressed a lot of these that I have, a lot of these items that I have on the list, but in this forum tonight, I can't respond to those until they're made as part of the formal submission. So I'm going to let you know the items that I think are important issues that you should address, all of which were mentioned by Chris in his memo. So first of all, we have the proposed uses. That's a big issue. Right now, there's 3 uses. There's service, commercial, warehouse, and storage. These are materially different land uses with very different zoning and parking implications. So before we can meaningfully review the site plan, the applicant must clearly define each intended use and demonstrate full zoning compliance. This is a threshold issue. Number 2, there's a significant deficiency in parking. And the prior ZBA parking variance is invalid because of a change in use. The parking calculations that you submitted exclude required floor area. They apply incorrect ratios. They mischaracterize the nature of the proposed uses, leading to a significant parking shortfall. So you must submit fully revised code compliant parking calculations based on clearly defined uses. Number 3, vehicle circulation and deliveries. Your proposed layout creates major operational conflicts, particularly involving delivery doors located where trucks would block parking spaces, inadequate maneuvering room, potential encroachment into the town right-of-way. The site must be redesigned to provide safe and efficient internal circulation, fully accommodated delivery and service access, no reliance on public roadway space for operations. This is a core site design issue, not a minor technical correction. The sanitary system. If it was put in the 70s, it's very likely that it's a large capacity cesspool, which means you would be mandated to replace it with a brand new IA system. In either case, I think, it's very important that you give serious consideration to putting in a new IA system. Number 5, solid waste management. Your application lacks a coherent waste management plan. The revised submission must clearly show trash enclosure locations, screening, truck access and turning, on-site functionality without circulation conflicts. Number 6, landscaping and visual character. The site is currently over-hardened and visually stark, particularly along Montauk Highway. You would need a comprehensive native landscaping and buffering plan. You would require softened visual impacts, reduce the dominance of parking, and improve streetscape character. Landscaping is a core design component, not an accessory element. Number 7, traffic and operational impacts. Future submissions by the applicant should include traffic generation, delivery scheduling, peak hour operations, and noise impacts. So in summary, your proposal requires substantial redesign and clarification. Specifically, you should return with, number 1, clearly defined lawful uses, number 2, demonstrated zoning compliance or identified relief, number 3, revised parking calculations, number 4, a reconfigured site plan that resolves circulation and delivery conflict, number 5, updated sanitary waste management and landscaping plans, and number 6, any required traffic and operational impact studies. Until these issues are addressed, the application is not ready for detailed site plan review. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lou. There's a lot going on here. I think we should to go around the table and get everyone's impressions, as this is a preliminary site review and we're giving directional advice to the applicant. So Ava, we're going to start with you, just directional.
So there is a lot going on here. I think first and foremost, the uses need to be clarified. And I do agree that, staying within the confines of zoning, we need to understand clearly what those defined uses are for the other pieces of the puzzle to kind of come together. I do agree about the sanitary system. It's over 50 years old. I'm no expert in that field, but I would think that should be heavily considered. And I'm familiar with the site as well. Parking is an issue, and again, dependent on what the ultimate use is. I think that the parking and the circulation, especially being at a Montauk Highway fronting property, needs to certainly be addressed. So some work to be done.
Thanks, Ava. Jen?
I agree with pretty much everything that Lou and Ava have said. I think a traffic study is important. I think the use question is first and foremost. We really can't have a meaningful discussion about the rest of it without understanding what the uses proposed are. And that being said, everything else that follows, I do think that the sanitary system is a huge, I think that needs to be replaced. I mean, it's 50 years old. So I think an IA system would be the way to go. And I hope that the applicant seriously considers that.
Thanks, Jen. Bruce?
Well, yeah, I agree with all these guys. I don't have anything more to really add. I think the uses, like you guys said, are super, super important to understand everything else, parking, circulation, septic, the whole 9 yards. So I think that's the key thing to start.
Okay, good, Reed.
Yeah, I thought Lou gave a great overview, and I agree with everyone on the board that we have to nail down the use before we can really proceed here. You brought up a comment that I found interesting, and it's a comment I haven't heard in years, and that is fees in lieu of parking. And it's my understanding that the town collects that money and kind of does a trade-off saying, hey, you don't necessarily need this extra spot or two, and you pay a certain sum, and then that money goes into a fund, right, that buys parking elsewhere in the town where it may be needed. I think that that's a concept I'd be open to, but I don't know what the shortfall is going to be here, because I really don't know what the use is going to be. So we can't put the cart in front of the horse. I think we have to figure out the use first. That's all I have.
Good, thanks, Reed. John, would you like to comment?
Yes, thank you. I'm in agreement with everything my fellow board members have said. The two biggest hurdles to this application are a use that won't require a zoning variance and parking. And then the rest, the IA system and traffic studies are secondary, but important.
Good, thank you, John. Yeah, I mean, you guys know this is a challenging site, right? I mean, this site is very overbuilt, as many other sites in this Wainscott Strip are that were built during that same time. And this is going to be a little bit tricky. I mean, the easiest path, of course, would be you can have retail plus warehouse and 20 parking spaces as was permitted in 1981. If you want to just return right to what the use has been, that is probably not the thing that you'd like to do, and maybe that's not even really very marketable at this point in time. But, and of course, we'd like to see the building reused, but this is very tricky. I mean, use is everything here, right? Figuring out the use is really the beginning of the process, and that's going to require some deep conversation with the planning department to really understand what actually is going to fly. I think you had some interesting suggestions as to what those might be, but I think we need to really seriously consider them. But it's going to be a challenge, and I think all the other attendant things that go along with this that other board members have mentioned, including sanitary system, are going to wind up being very important to us down the line. So to be a little bit more specific, we'll go through the questions the department is given us to answer. The first of which is, does the planning board agree with the planning department's assessment of additional information that must be provided upon formal site plan application pursuant to Town Code 255-650 necessary elements?
Yes.
I think we always agree on that. Does the planning board agree the applicant should revise the proposal to conform with the town code, obviating the need for variances?
Yes.
Yeah, as much as I can.
That would be ideal, yes.
But not mandatory. I mean, it would be ideal, but
Right.
there's nothing wrong with applying for variances.
We don't encourage.
You're not encouraging.
We're not encouraging. Something. Yeah. It's going to be tricky to do that, quite honestly.
The fewer
But we would. I guess the way we want to answer that question is to the extent possible, feasible. It still meets your objectives. Third question is, does the planning board agree the applicant should clarify the proposed uses and amend parking calculations accordingly?
Absolutely.
We've talked about that a lot. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does planning board agree the vehicle delivery doors should be added to the site plan? Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a detail at this point.
Depends on use, probably.
Yeah, it really depends on use, is I think our answer. Right. Does the planning board agree the applicant should discuss the use of right-of-way with the highway department? It sounds like you may not have plans to actually use it, but if you do, then of course you would need to do that. Does the planning board agree the applicant should submit proof of a grandfathered population density equivalent?
Yes.
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 Does the planning board agree the applicant should propose a low nitrogen sanitary system?
Yes.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. Yes, all around. Does the planning board agree the applicant should explain how solid waste will be disposed of and taken away from the property?
Yes.
Yes, you offered some hints at how that might happen, but yeah, formalize it, please. Does the planning board agree with a detailed grading and drainage plan be included in the formal submission? Yes. Yeah. So concludes your preliminary review. I mean, hopefully that was helpful and gives you some direction on what we're thinking. We'll be hearing from you again, I'm certain. Thank you. All right. Next thing on our work session is comments to the town board on a code change clarifying building permit requirements for wireless services facilities. Eric, you're going to take us through that.
Yep. Yeah, so this is this matter is for the planning board to send comments to the town board as is required whenever there's a proposed code change, regardless of scale. So basically this relates to tier 1 wireless facilities and permitting. Those are small cell that are within right of ways. We've received a number of applications for them, and we have a new process on this. That new process was dictated when the town recently overhauled the wireless code. One of the things we did was we took what I believe were almost 30 different code sections that were spread throughout the code and condensed them into section 255-141 of the town code. We better organized requirements, so included in there is a detailed list for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 of what the application process is, including timelines for review. So in that section of the code for tier 1, we detailed the application process, which includes getting an administrative permit from the planning department, getting an agreement from the town for use of the right-of-way. Remember, tier 1 small cell are all within a right-of-way. And then also getting a work permit from the highway department for actual physical work occurring within that right-of-way. So we basically have one section of the code which details that application process for tier 1, but then in reviewing recent permits, we realized that we failed to modify another section of the code, which is the one that says work that requires building permits. So right now the code says that any component of a personal wireless service facility requires a building permit. We had never intended for that to be the process. As I said, we laid out the process in 255-1-41 of the town code. We do want tier 2 and tier 3 applications to still be required to obtain a building permit. Tier 2 are mainly swap outs of equipment on in existing facilities and on existing structures. So, you have a tall building, the Montauk Tower, that has wireless equipment on it. That's a tier 2 application would be swapping out the equipment. And then tier 3 are the applications for new macro facilities or large support structures. The planning board has one of those active in front of it right now. So those would still require building permits, as we had envisioned would be the process. So this code change is just removing that requirement for tier 1 and removing that conflict in the code and keeping it just the permitting process that's detailed in the new wireless code.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So, right. So I guess to put it a slightly different way, the issue was that it should not have been in the code that tier 1 needed a building permit, and particularly since it's in a right of way. Anyway, it's not really even possible to get one. So this seems pretty minor. Does anyone have any comments that they want to give to the town board about this?
No,
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay.
Realize that would be applicable to tier 1.
All right.
Out of curiosity, how big is a tier 1?
Like, on the Newtown Lane, the pole that was just kind of knocked over the holidays. It's like those little things that
Oh, that
attach
little
to the
thing.
light
Stick out.
pole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the little antennas.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, some
some of them are a little bit bigger,
canisters.
yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
but they're attached
They're
to
attached to
already,
something else.
yeah.
Yeah, they are to
Yeah.
an existing utility pole.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like cameras.
I mean, a lot less obtrusive than a tower, right?
Right.
Sure, I remember.
So we don't have any specific comments, Katie, except that we
Just we
agree.
Agree.
Yeah. Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, so our other topic here is the Landing Artist Studio resolution modifying the approval. We talked about this at our last meeting. Oh, wait a minute, no.
wait a minute.
Way
Heritage
before.
Farm first.
Yeah, sorry, I went backwards here. Heritage Farm final subdivision. And that is something that Aaron did and Reed. I don't think we need any explanation, or do we, from planning on?
I don't think so, but I'm happy to give one if you need some context.
Okay. Yeah, well, just really quickly on that, because that's a little complicated, that one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So this is an application on Heritage Park Lane, basically a driveway had a certificate of occupancy of 2 individual driveways where the original subdivision said that it should only take access from 1 common driveway. Since got the modification to allow that second driveway to remain. However, the conditions of approval stated that no certificate of occupancy could be granted to any of the properties in the subdivision until a certain document for the common driveway was revised for the subject property. That was an error. It should only hold up a certificate of occupancy on the subject property, which is lot 1 in the subdivision. So this is just a correction so that other properties in that subdivision can get a C of O before the subject property finalizes documents.
Good, thank you. Yeah, no, it's a little complicated. But Reed, if you want to just call for.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the matter of the application of Heritage Farm Laney, final subdivision modification, Suffolk County tax map number 300-157-3-7.1 for resolution of amending approval. I've read the resolution and I call for its adoption.
I'll second that.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. And the Landing Artist Studio, I don't think we need much of an explanation on that. We just went over this last week. So Ava, if you want to just read that in.
Sure. In the matter of the application of the Landing Art Studio, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-56-2-27, I've read the resolution and I move for its approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. Okay, great. So all we have left is the adoption of the minutes for January 14th, our last meeting.
Which I have read.
I have read them.
You've read them
Yeah, I
too?
read them
All read them.
cover to cover. I didn't have any changes, but there are people on this group who have more of an eagle eye than I do.
I did see just one thing on number 2, page 2, under B. Third paragraph down. I just remember Jones would be better than Reed. Whatever. It's a casual thing.
Okay.
All right.
Member Jones.
Member Jones.
You got that, Katie? You got that? Okay. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes?
As amended.
As amended. Member Jones.
Member Jones.
I'll just call for a vote.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Carried. Okay, motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?